unnukut tungasugitsi Igalaaq mo uvanga Teresa Khiachuk. Pisakir pallialiqtu tuqungasulerisikku qausissarninga inuugunniirtuminermi kimmerormi. Pinaswaqu silima taututtuvinit unikkaariartulauqtu pitjutikillugu George Arluttu inuugunniirminga. Ilai qaqqasirtaqtu uqalangaso qanuililaqumangata.
Qarlunga taana unikkaariangussimayong iluriqaumman uqingittunik ammaro inuarnermik nangminna. Taana qauyamayummaqi parisini iqqanaaya qatiqaqattartuq narunaarilaungmat qitiqquutium unnusanganik taakkuagu kiututikilauqtangi parisikkut naammaktuurauqtun ammaro asinginnik pivalleriarutinik uqausiqarluni ilariujaalluni nunavuumikkuuq parisikkut taakkua pivalleriarnaariartut sukatitjutioqattartut timimut taser-neraqtaujut qallunaatitun taakkua parisikkut narunaarijutingi teekani qauyamayingin ammaro nunavuumi piqayarjuartuiriikku qaungmata ullumi taannagu nunavuumi laungittoq nunavuumi piqayaktuiriirjua kimmeqummi teemittoqarauqtillugu uqakkannерilluni nunavuumigu parisikkun pivalleriarnaariartu sukatitjutini aqaagugilaaq tattinni ammaru pilerissimanearluti tamakkua eqqanaayaqtiin ammaru pilerinnerivaktangi qimerruyaruting nunavuugavamakkunginnu taanna qauyimayigiyaayu tamatumunga taanna inangiisimarauqsimayu ikayortauviu angayuqqaarilaukakluniu aaqigiarving teekani mamisarvingmi George Arluttu taana teekani iniqaraukarauqsimayo qikertaaruum ikayortauvinganing taana ikayortauviu angayoqqaanga uqarsimalluni qauyimaraungittoqu Arluttuumi kisaani takunallunigin taakua paippaan iluringin taanagu piareersisimaqattarauqtu atuinnautitauyunik teekani inigiyauyuning pidjuteqarpaktuning taakkuninga aangayaarnartuni atukayuktuning ammaru aannerserinermik ilariujaukkannerilluni inui iliqqusingaan maannari taakkua qausartiunarunaarilaurtillugin tamananaarangniuyu uqaussiqakkanni qumaraungmata narunaaririktaarlutin qano Arluttu inuyunnernermangaan ammaru tunisilutin aaqqigaarutauquyauyunik teemittoqakkanni qunagu tuqunikkun ilai qaqqasertartu CBC pivalliayut iqarui
Ilanginunaliit nunavummi sulinutaani kiinausani pititaulaungittut tuniqqainermo niqitaaqutitchani kavamatoqakkunalunaersilauqaluartillugi kiinausait ikasuutitchait kasusititaulangazoo aqqaagukkannermo taakkununga inuit qitoqnganginnu sivulliutisino taqqitamaaq 500 niuvirunnauti tunisauqattalauqtuit niqitaaqutitchait qitoqnga risarno ammalu 250 piaqarno tuqaangasumi huingilitchataaquti immutaaqutillo taanna ikasuutitchaq noqqartitaulauqtu March 31 Sindu Govinda Pillai taanna tukimuartitchisigisa qupanuaqqunni uqartu taakkua ilangi haamalait sulitusakkannilaungittui tutseqalauqaluartillugi qausimangitchutilo tamanna pilireangusu kasusititaukkannerunnalangammanga
There are very few
Onungittunit ikayuutitaqarunnartoq kisiani neqinut ikayuutiit ajorsangipaallertittiyuugaruat ilaannikkullu tukisinerluktauqattartut taakkua haamlatkut tuniuqqaituinnarninginnut ikayuutinit ilagiyaujunut sorlu 54% tuinneit ajorsariqattartut
Iqalunni iglulimmi asinginnilo nunalinni noqqartitchisimaleqiartui tamatuminga nunaqqaaqsimasu pisittirautingi Canadami uqartu amisuunersaulertu tutchiqartut ikasuutitchami asiago qimeqqukkannilertui piunersakku tataterinermi atuinnautitchingaarunnermangata qausigaakainerlermilavu inuksuk ilinniarvinga iqalunni ilisaisit atcheroqsuti pilerisimalaurmata ilitarilugu inuttitu uqausermutaqqi sanagiuqsartitchinermo ilisaisit maatiusi alenga ammalu Dean McDonald taakkua sanasimalertu aaqqitchuikutitchami titirareorsanermo uqariorsanermolo Scrabble nguneraqtauso nalunaitchiarlugu taqqivo tuqaangatillugu inuttitu uqausilerinermo uqaqatigeqqausaqa maatiusi ullumi inuttitu uqausermo taqqigimmaku tappani April ilataan na ako sa kakataktay nga isumagizaw sila ka teammate tumisan nagya.
Tamanna ismarijaw rialauttu uqaudjautu aqatta taqqikhalaaramata inuttituungasunik inuttituinna uqarasuasuungulangasugu tabbani taqqimi April.
Sunamo ng mga ilahalo natin to Scrabble.
Taanna aaqitsuinermu tuaangayu titirariursanermu tuaangallunilu uqariursanermu taakkua qallunaatitu Scrabble nerartaussuut taimaatsainna qallunaatitu uqariursanermu titirariursanermu tuaangammimmata taima isimarililortavut.
Isumavalialaqtillu si taatsuminga khano uqaqatigigia khalauqqisi khano tamanna pigialangava khano ittuulangava khano uqaqatigilauqqisi.
Tamanna pirialaunginittinni isumartsiuiaqavinga kainalortugu khano pilangammangata kisiani qijuqutiqarattaamissuni qijummuungajumik qarisauyakkut titirarsimajumik tabbunga kaivuutiulaartumut sanasiumut atalluni.
Khatchini sanasimavisse.
Maanna tuuhannalau ungataani sanasimaju tainna peqatikuluga.
Khanutigi sanasau khattaqataaqua atausermuungaluni khanutigi uqa.
Atausiimeitto sanajautillugu 10 minute mik atoqattasugu. Teikkua tuuhannalaummata tuuhannalaungataaniimmata tuuhannalatuinnautangittu. Tainna peqatikuluga ullaaraaluku tabbunga qattasilaortu ilinniarpialummu sanaqattariartuni.
Ilinniartiuluni adjigiingittu ilaqano. Adjigiingittumi ilinniarunnaarmata ilinniartiitsuurlu taututuinnangilluti aggakku piliqiluti ilangi iligunnarneqsausuungummata tamanna takutsauqattaqa ilinniartini teimittumi piliqititsiqattaqtillusi.
Taima paippaamauqautsauqattangin paippaamaungajumu qalluna atoqtitsilupaalummata una qimiqquaratakunnarlugu sanarasualangasai taimaungittu inui peqqusiriнгimmagu taanna inuilli peqqusinga ajoorsuijeqqaarluni taanna inu pijunnangippa ilisaijaangittu taima pisimajuinnauqattarsimajugu ilinni taakkua qaujimangitannik ilinniatijjaangitakka attanartumu pequnagit.
Pisaqirsimangimataanna pisaqirpa khanwittuulangapa.
Tamanna pisaqirsimalituarpamanna ilulinga amiarsimalunilunniit ubbalu taanikit taannersamut amiaraatutuinnarlugu mannaqaanga amiarlugu qakortami.
Atoqtauqattalaqqa.
Taakkua atoqtauqattarumaarniarsimaju sanajausimaju.
Khanokli pimmariuttikivio inuttito poqausivo.
Tamanna pimmarit ruammarialu inuttituurnik uqalimaarunnernik amma inutuqaapipput ningiuvut anaanatsiavut qallunaujaqunangippat inuttitukisiani uqalimavigilugit piumman ammalu qatangutigittutikut inuttituinna uqalimaqattautisuungusugu angiqqatinni suurlu angijoqarama pitsiulaamik tukisianersaussuungusugu inuttitu uqalituaqannu upinnarani inuttitu ilinniaqqaarsimasugut tamaanga babyunittinnik suusiroqqallianittinnik innauqqallianittinnillu taima jaraitailissimasugut uvagu inuttituunningani.
Asingini takoqqaummikama teimittuni sanasimasuni takoqqauchunglu saalazumi imailingattaqu haalattaqu saniani khanno qaqatigilauqqisi taakkua soorlu qiqirtaalu qittermiu uqausingi ilunnati ilagisauqulluge.
Teikkua ilakuugaluat tainna takuneraqataartait taavani sanaviu aippangani haalasuunginatta tamaani qiqirtaalummi ha kisiani sa morto ha morto hovi suvi tamakuang mata kivadlumniullu atusuudluniu ilanniku ha hihu ha piluaqpallayu aqviamiu taavakkualu avanimiu aklavik qorlortu Cambridge Bay tamakkualima atuqtarunnalaartu taikkununga uqausi qatiringikkaluartutigu uqausivu adriikastattiarmata taimippo
Asingin sana lang nga visita chunga inep dito
tamanna
mutakkingano.
Siautituinnaammat asingin isumatsarsiulaarmasuguttaa
Asingin niyo kasi tsaka kanya ko vea pekutiginggitan ni
Ami suari uqausittakkaami suari ma taavangatuinna uqarunnartunga kisiani uqattaangittunga uyannami nakurmiik taimas
Iqalumiu parnattuini rivitjuati chinermo niriteili niulaurto kinguniani taisauso Ramadan Muslim no Eid al-Fitr ullunga pimmariuti tauvo Muslim no Saqqirataartillugu taqqinilirninga nalunaiqsiso pigiarninga ni Eid ammalo nuqqarninga ni niriteilineq siqinniubni pibbiani unnuamo Moral Jamal tana qitchuiso niritichinermi qasortorvimmi nachiingusarmi unno oqartu Eid tukinga nunalinno utirtichine
The Muslim population is growing, but
Unuqsivallianginnartut maslammiuteit ilaannikku ajornarseq raukaqattartuq kayusitittinasulluni aviktorsimaninginnut qauyimayattinnit katitittinasuqattaqatta tamanna piullariktoq taimanneittunnaqatta tamaanermiutauleqaluartilluta nunalignillu kateqqattaqaangatta quviasuuteqqarunnaqattaqatta
Nihiliarisait Morocco miutito nihiliarisaulangaso takkualo itironnautit akiqangittut aisaugunnartui qasortorvimmi naachiingusarmi unnusa tuumorpa tamani qalunne Igalaaq noqqarvitsangatikigiirtu nakurmiingaasina tautukunnarsiqataaqatsi Northbeat takutsaulangaleqmiso trisaqachiuvunga unnuqatsiaqitsi
What kind of Canada do we want for our kids and our grandkids? I want a Canada that works for you. But Mark Carney spent his career hurting workers to make money for the powerful. He made life harder for families and easier for big corporations. And Pierre Poilievre, he wants us to be the US in everything but name. I want a Canada that works for you, where we fix our public health care, get your costs down. Let's protect our kind of Canada. That's worth fighting for.
What do we know? I think we can explain.
About that with Andrew Chang.
Ingniu silurtiu yumavit. Obvalo ingniu sikharovikhaw yumavit salas sarayang mga iliqqusileriikkunni. Khilaw nalliuniqsiutillugu aqqaaguni qulini inuyuqawsinga pitsutigillugu 2025 mit ingniu silurnikisawtineq pineartu peruqsatillunga ammalu inui sanasimayangi missaanu ingniu silurnikisaw qatawiyumaguvi tukisigaakkannerunnartuti www.gov.nu.ca taanna matuvissalik May 5, 2025
Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin in Nunavut, where the coroner's inquest into the death of a Kimmirut man is nearing its conclusion. Over the past week, witnesses have testified in Igalaaq, shedding light on the circumstances surrounding George Arluktu's death. TJ Deer has more on what the final 3 witnesses said.
A warning that this story contains details relating to a death by suicide. An expert in police force and tactics testified on Thursday afternoon that the responding officers acted appropriately, but he had some recommendations, including Nunavut RCMP upgrading their tasers. The RCMP's witness, who's with Nunavut's major crime unit, spoke today. He was not in Nunavut when the incident in Kimmirut happened. He says Nunavut RCMP will get upgraded tasers by next year and that they're working to address staffing and operation issues. The government of Nunavut's witness was the acting warden of the Igalaaq Correctional Healing Facility. George Arluktu was staying at what was then known as the Baffin Correctional Center. The warden says while he didn't know Arluktu personally, his file indicated that he had completed programs related to substance abuse, alternates to violence, and Inuit culture. Now that all the witnesses have testified, the jury has been asked to identify how Arluktu died and provide any recommendations to prevent similar deaths. TJ Deer, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Some Nunavut communities still don't have new money for distributing food vouchers. That's despite the federal government announcing a 1-year funding extension to the Inuit Child First initiative. Each month, the program provides $500 per child for groceries and $250 more for children under 4 for formula and diapers. The last round of funding ended March 31st. The organization that helps administer the Inuit Child First funding in Nunavut says some hamlets still haven't heard back on their new applications and may have to end their programs this month.
There are very few interventions except direct food supports that can get people to close to the poverty line. There's sometimes a misconception that Inuit CFI funding, and specifically Hamlet food voucher programs, are a handout. But in fact, they only get families to 54% towards the poverty line.
Iqaluit and Igalaaq, among others, have already ended their food voucher programs. Indigenous Services Canada says there's a significant increase in the number of funding requests. It's implementing a new way to process applications to meet the demand. The Endacho Healing Society is working on pilot programs for its future healing center. In March, the federal government allocated $7 million to help build the facility in the Northwest Territories. Roy and Jean Erasmus co-chair the Endacho Healing Society. Jean Erasmus says the lodge will be open to people seeking healing, including elders. She says it'll help people understand how trauma affects them.
It's not only, psychoeducational, it's really immersing the participants in culture. There'll be a land-based component, and we know as Indigenous Dene that the land heals.
The facility will have 24 beds. The society says regional governments support the project. The location of the lodge has not been decided, and there's no opening timeline yet. This summer, the society will hold pilot programs with their Indigenous counseling cohort. The Whitehorse Hospital says it's once again able to safely sterilize surgical instruments. This marks the end of a 2-month disruption that forced the cancellation of more than 160 procedures. Gabrielle Plonka has that story.
The Whitehorse Hospital says it can now safely sterilize surgical instruments. The problem began a little over 2 months ago. Hospital staff found some residue on surgical instruments, prompting the hospital to launch a systemic review and cancel dozens of surgeries. The problem turned out to be mineralization staining the equipment. Officials say hard water is fine to drink, but surgical sterilization equipment is more sensitive. The fix is regular maintenance, water softeners, and filters to purify the water. Now that the issue is resolved, the hospital's regular surgical schedule will resume on Monday. 165 surgeries were canceled and need to be rebooked. Most of them were cataract surgeries with a handful of joint and abdominal procedures. The hospital corporation's CEO told CBC Whitehorse General is looking for ways to catch up quickly, whether that be extending the workday or booking some surgeries on weekends. Gabrielle Plonka, CBC News, Whitehorse.
The spring thaw is underway in Whitehorse, and with that comes potential landslide risks. The city has been keeping a close eye on the escarpment by Robert Service Way. That's one of 2 roads vehicles can use to get downtown. A large chunk of that escarpment came down in 2022, shutting down the road for months. Smaller slides have happened since, but officials say conditions are looking promising for a quiet spring this year. There's a slightly smaller than average snowpack this year, meaning there's less meltwater to flow through the clay and dirt. Still, city officials say they are keeping a close eye on things and taking precautionary measures.
We have already moved the traffic lanes over in preparation. That helped address the situation last year, having the lock blocks in place. We have the signs and other barriers ready at either end of the slide zone so that we can respond quickly if things change quickly. So we're well prepared.
The city is actively monitoring the escarpment with a radar system and inspections. Officials say so far it's shown little movement and looks fairly stable. As diamond mines in the Northwest Territories wind down, the territory is turning its attention to critical minerals. One lithium exploration company says it's already eyeing the NWT for a potential new mine. And with growing global tensions, it's also thinking ahead about how to keep production entirely within Canada. Jocelyn Chappelle has more.
Right now, lithium mined in Canada is typically sent to China to be refined for use in batteries. But that could soon change. Mining company Lyft plans to open a mine in the NWT. The company's senior geologist says they're evaluating local processing options.
There is a trend right now where companies that have resources are banding together to put their resources together, work together to try to bring in partners to build these kind of things within Canada.
The problem is there isn't a Canadian plant that can refine lithium. Smithson says that's on track to change, though. The company is looking at proposed developments in Alberta and Ontario. Last month, the Canadian government announced a partnership with Frontier Lithium Inc. to open a conversion plant in Ontario. A few months before that, the Chinese Commerce Ministry proposed curbing exports on lithium processing tech. Chris Dornbos is the CEO for Alberta lithium brine company E3. He agrees the industry has seen a shift. His company is working towards their own processing solutions.
Now, not all the lithium comes from China. A lot of it comes from Australia and Africa and South America, but the refining of it is happening in China. And so this eliminates that need to send your materials for processing overseas, which is one of the most important factors for why things are called critical in the critical mineral.
The International Energy Agency expects the demand for critical minerals to double by 2040. Smithson says Lyft could open a mine in 6 to 8 years, depending on how long the permitting process takes. Jocelyn Chappelle, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The Yukon government is targeting Elon Musk in its second phase of retaliation against U.S. tariffs. Premier Rand Pillay announced the measures on Thursday. They include ending rebates for Tesla products, reviewing the Yukon government's Starlink accounts, and no longer posting on the social media platform X.
I think it's pretty clear that he has a very significant role inside the administration right now, has been very vocal, very supportive, very clearly. I mean, we've watched on a number of occasions where he has sat right next to the president.
Pillay says the Yukon government has about 90 Starlink contracts. They're mostly used at highway camps, rural medical centers, campgrounds, and emergency response hubs. Pillay says Starlink accounts that are not required for business continuity or emergency response will be canceled. We are on day 13 of the federal election campaign. Canadians are going to the polls in less than a month. And we want to know what's important to Northerners. We hit the streets of Dawson City, Yukon, to ask people what issues are on their minds. Here's some of what we heard.
I think housing is a big one, and healthcare is another big one. And also just encouraging us Canadians to support Canadians in regards to the U.S. and tariffs and whatnot.
I think like the biggest issues that I can think of are obviously like lack of housing and healthcare. And like a lot of people I know don't have family doctors, and a lot of people I know that are nurses are overworked. So I think that's a big one. And then the cost of housing is crazy.
Politics is depressing these days, and I don't like to start my day like that. So I have no idea what's going on politically right now.
Women's issues, abortion rights, trans rights. All of these things that seem to be on the forefront all around the world, or at least in North America, are really important to me.
In terms of like northern life and my community, I'd really like to see people talking about mental health and our addictions issues, and of course the climate crisis, and just generally I'm interested in what's going to make a better world for our kids.
Election Day is April 28th and advance polls begin on April 18th. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
What kind of Canada do we want for our kids and our grandkids? I want a Canada that works for you. But Mark Carney spent his career hurting workers to make money for the powerful. He made life harder for families and easier for big corporations. And Pierre Poilievre, he wants us to be the US in everything but name. I want a Canada that works for you, where we fix our public health care, get your costs down. Let's protect our kind of Canada. That's worth fighting for.
Are you an aspiring songwriter? Do you want your song to be part of Nunavut's cultural heritage? Let's celebrate 10 years of Inuktitut songwriting with this year's themes, Piluk sa Tilunga and Inuit Sanasimayangit. For contest rules and more information about Igalaaq 2025, visit www.gov.nu.ca. The deadline for submissions is May 5, 2025.
The claims period for 2 classes in the First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement is now open.
First Nations children who were removed from their homes on reserve between April 1st, 1991 and March 31st, 2022, and their caregiving parents and caregiving grandparents can now submit a claim for compensation.
There are free supports to help you fill out your form.
And mental health and wellness supports if you need them.
Learn more and submit your claim at fnchildclaims.ca.
I was fighting losing battles with opponents disguised as friends, and coming home to a different fight that never ends. I saw no other choice. I had to leave a roof for the rain. But sometimes I wonder if there was a path with more to gain. Maybe the opportunities would have been better, and every day would take me further towards something greater.
To help create new paths for youth experiencing homelessness, the Home Depot Canada Foundation is committing $125 million by 2030.
One good scheme deserves another. Stay on him.
I feel we may be in for a challenging few days.
Cheers. Cheers.
Being there means being here. The city is now very still. To share.
I'm so freaking worried about them.
Adrian Arsenault reports on CBC News. Stream free.